nervous. Very, very dreadfully nervous I have been and I'm. But why will you say that I'm mad? This disease had sharpened my sins, not destroyed, not dulled them. Above all was the sense of hearing acute. I heard all things in the heaven and in the earth. I heard many things in hell. How then am I made? Hearken and obsess how happily, how calmly I can tell you the whole story. It is impossible to say how first idea entered my brain, but once conceived, it haunted me day and night. Object, there was none. Passion, there was none. I loved the old man. He had never wronged me. He had never given me insult. For his gold I had not deserved. I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this. He had the eye of a vulture, a pale blue eye with a film over it. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood running cold, and so by degrees, very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man, and thus rid myself of the eye forever. Now, this is the point. You fancy me mad. Madmen know nothing, but you should have seen me. You should have seen how wisely I proceeded, with what caution, with what foresight, with what dissimulations I went to work. I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him. And every night, about midnight, I turned the leg of his door and opened it. Oh, so gently. And then when I had met an opening sufficient for my head, I put in the dark lantern. I'll close, that no light shone out. And then I thrust in my head. Oh, you would have loved to see how cunningly I thrust it in. I move it slowly, very, very slowly, so that I might not disrupt the old man's sleep. It took me an hour to place my whole head within the opening so far that I could see him as he lay upon his back. Would the madman have been so wise as this? And then, when my head was well in the room, I undid the lantern cautiously. Oh, so cautiously. I undid it just so much that a single thin ray fell upon the full eye. And this I did for 7 long nights, every night just midnight. But I found the eye always closed, and so it was impossible to do the work. For it was not the old man who faced me, but his evil eye. And every morning, when the day broke, I went boldly into the chamber and spoke courageously to him, calling him by name in the hearty tone, and inquiring how he has passed in the night. So, you see, he would have been a very proud old man. Indeed, the suspect that every night, just at 12, I looked upon him while he slept.
Upon the night I was more than usually courteous in opening the door. Just a minute hand moved more quickly than did mine. Never before that night had I felt that extent of my own powers, of my sagacity. I could scarcely contain my feelings of terror. To think that there I was opening the door little by little, and he not even to dream of my secret deeds or thoughts. I very chuckled at the idea, and perhaps he heard me, for he moved on the bed suddenly, as if startled. Now you might think that I drew back, but no. His room was a black as pitch with the thick darkness, for the shutters were close fastened through fear of robbers, and so I knew that he couldn't see the opening of the door, and I kept pushing it on steadily. I had my head in and was about to open the lantern when my thumb slipped upon the thin fastening, and the old man sprang up in bed, crying out, "Who's there?" I kept quite still and said nothing. For a whole hour I didn't move a muscle, and in the meantime I did not I didn't hear him lie down. He was still sitting up in the bed listening, just as I have done night after night, hearkening to the death watches in the wall.
Presently, I heard a slight groan, and I knew it was the groan of a mortal terror. It was not a groan of pain or of grief. Oh no, it was the low, stifled sound that arises from the bottom of the soul when overcharged with awe. I knew the sound well. Many nights, just at midnight, when all the world slept, it has welled up from my own bosom, deepening with its dreadful echo the terrors that distract me. I say, I knew it well. I knew what the old man felt and pitied him. Although I chuckled at heart, I knew that he had been lying awake ever since the first slight noise, when he had turned in the bed. His fears had been ever since growing upon him. He had been trying to fancy them causeless, but could not. He had been saying to himself, "It is nothing but the wind in the chimney. It is only a mouse crossing the floor. Or it is merely a cricket which has made a single chirp." Yes, he had been trying to comfort himself with these suppositions, but he had found all in vain. All in vain, because death, in approaching him, had stalked with his black shadow before him and enveloped the victim. And it was the mournful influence of the unperceived shadow that caused him to feel, although he neither saw nor heard, to feel the presence of my head within the room. When I had waited a long time, very patiently, without hearing him lie down, I resolved to open a very, very little crevice in the lantern. So I opened it. You cannot imagine how stealthily, at length, a simple dim ray, like the thread of the spider, shot from out the crevice and fell full upon the Felter eye. It was open, wide open, and I grew furious as I gazed upon it. I saw it with perfect distinctness, all a dull blue, with a hideous veil over it that chilled the very marrow in my bones. But I could see nothing of the old man's face or person, for I had directed the ray, as if by instinct, precisely upon the damp spot.
Have I not taught you that what you mistake for madness is but overactualness of the sense? Now, I say there come to my ears a low, dull, quick sounds such as watch makes when envelope and curtain. I knew that sound well too. It was the beating of the old man's heart. It increased my fury as the beating of a drum stimulates the soldier into tolerance. But even yet, I refrained and kept still. I scarcely breathed. I held the lantern motionless. I tried how steadily I could maintain the right upon the air. Meantime, the hellish tattoo of the heart increased. It grew quicker and louder every instant. The old man's terror must have been extreme. It grew louder, I say, louder every moment. Do you mark me, Will? I have told you that I'm nervous. So I am, and now at the dead hour of the night, amid the dreadful silence of that old house, so strange of noise as this excited me to uncontrollable terror. Yet for some minutes longer I refrained and stood still. But the beating grew louder. I thought the heart must burst. Now I knew seismic sound would be heard by a neighbor. The old man's hour had come. With a loud yell, I threw open the lantern and leaped into the room. He shivered once only. In an instant, I dragged him to the floor and pulled the heavy bed over him. I then smiled gaily to find the deed so far done, but for many minutes the heartbeat on which a muffled sound. This, however, did not vex me. It would not be heard through the water. At length it ceased. The old man was dead. I removed the bed and examined the corpse. Yes, he was stone dead. I pressed my hand upon the heart and held it there many minutes. There was no pulsation. He was stone dead. His air would trouble me no more. If still you think me mad, you will think so no longer when I describe the wise precautions I took for the concealment of the body. The night wore, and I worked hastily but in silence. First of all, I dismembered the corpse. I cut off the head and the arms and the legs.
I then took up 3 planks from the flooring of the chamber and deposited all between the scantlings. I then replaced the boards so cleverly, so cunningly, that no human eye, not even his, could have detected anything wrong. There was nothing to wash out, no stain of any kind, no blood spot whatever. I had been too worried for that. The top had caught on. When I had made an end of this labor, it was 4 o'clock, still dark as midnight. As the bell sounded the hour, there came knocking at the street door. I went down to open it with light heart, for what had I now to fear? There entered 3 men, who introduced themselves with perfect
Swafidi as officer of the police. A shriek had been heard by neighbors during the night. Suspicion of foul play had been aroused. Information had been lodged at the police office, and the officer had been deputed to search the premises. I smelled for what had I to fear? I bade the gentleman welcome. The shriek, I said, was my own in dream. The old man I mentioned was absent in country. I took my visitor all over the house. I bade them shortbread. I led them at length to his chamber. I saw them his treasure secure and disturbed in the enthusiasm of my confidence. I brought Charles into the room and decided them here to rest from their fatigue, while I myself in the wild audacity of my perfect calm placed my own seat upon the fair spot beneath which responded the corpse of the victim.
The officers were satisfied. My manner had convinced them. I was singularly at ease. They said, and while I answered cheerily, they chat of familiar things. But ere long, I felt myself getting pale and wisdom gone. My head ached, and I fancied a ringing in my ears. But still they sat and chat. The ringing became more distinct. It continued and became more distinct. I talked more freely to get rid of the feelings. But it continued and gained definiteness until at length I found that the noise was not within my ears.
No doubt, I now grew very pale, but I talked more fluently and with a high-toned voice. Yet the sound increased, and what could I do? It was a low, dull, quick sound, much a sound as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I gasped for breath, and yet the officer heard it not. I talked more quickly, more vehemently, but the noise steadily increased. I arose and argued about rebels in high key and with violent gesticulations, but noise steadily increased. Why would they not be gone? I paced the floor to and fro with heavy strides, as if excited to fury by the observation of the man. But the noise steadily increased. Oh God, what could I do? I foamed, I raved, I swore. I swung the chair upon which I had been sitting, and grated it upon the porch. But the noise arose overall and continually increased. It grew louder, and still the man chatted pleasantly and smiled. What is possible they heard not? Almighty God! No, they heard. They suspected. They knew. They were making a mockery of my horror. This I thought, and this I think, but anything was better than this agony. Anything was more tolerable than this decision. I could bear those hypocritical smiles no longer. I felt that I must scream or die. And now, again, hark, louder, louder.